Okay, so we're on Zainam and Aleph. We were discussing the fact that we had that case of the bent mavi, the mavi with the U, and the people of Nardai seem to be machmir on both ends of the spectrum. They're machmir on Rav, like Rav, to consider a mavi mafulish, and they were machmir like Shmuel to close it off through doors, right? Because according to Shmuel, if it was a mavi sasa, it wouldn't require that much work. So, but the people of Nardai seem to go with both chumras, and the question was, is that really proper? Is going with two chumras the way to go? It seems to be either you're a Rav man, you got to go take Rav's kulas and chumras together, or you're a Shmuel man, you take their kulas together. So you had different approaches, and now the last answer we started with is let's pick up again from Amr of Shizvi, right, which is about 10 lines down in Zayim and Aleph. Amr of Shizvi, Kiloy Avdinu Kechumra Debei Trey. So let's calm down with this double chumra thing. Nothing so bad about double chumras, and that would have certainly explained the rabbis, as I mentioned, who were famous for never, or at least to the best of their ability, always being machmir, like whatever Shitas Rishon would say anything about any situation, they'd always grab that opinion. So we're saying that's not so bad unless it's under special circumstances. When do you not follow the chumras of two different opinions? When those two opinions are contradictory, which inherently makes it untenable. For example, going shedru v'kagolos, like the case of the spine and the skull. The Tanan, and we alluded to this sometime earlier in the Masechta. The Tanan, a shedru v'kagolos, as we moved around Shas there in the beginning of Eruvin. So now we're moving back into that Tumadik realm, that the laws of Tumah v'Taira. A shedru v'kagolos shechosru, right? So we know there's a fundamental difference between tumas, a corpse tumah that can contaminate by touching versus a corpse tumah which contaminates by OL. And we know that they don't always have the same rules, because to be tummy through touching, a much smaller amount of the corpse could be valid to be able to transmit the size of a barley. It would be enough to transmit through touching. To have it through OL, the tumah needs to be much more intact and much larger. So a spine, an intact spine or an intact skull, would be able to normally transmit tumah through OL, shechosra, but in this case, if it became lacking, they no longer have the ability to transmit on the higher level, namely OL. V'kama chosru. How much must they be lacking to no longer maintain their status of being a full skull or a full shedra that will transmit tumas through tumas OL? Beishamai omrim shtei chulyos. Beishamai says it needs to be missing two vertebrae off the spine. Beisil omrim chulya achas. Beisil says only one vertebrae. So if I ask you right now, who's mekul and who's machmi here? So Beis Hillel says one vertebrae will be enough to no longer have it a valid spine. If it's no longer a valid spine, then it will not be able to transmit tumah. So right on this level, the very fact that you hold of one vertebrae, rendering it no longer an intact situation, will be a lenient position. However, the rules of this tumah really emanates from the rules of what's considered a valid spine or a valid skull in the laws of treif, the laws of being a treifa. So in other words, by Beis Hillel saying one vertebrae, if one vertebrae is missing, it loses its validity, which is a kula, is also a chumrah, because he's saying one vertebrae will also render an animal a treifa if it's missing one vertebrae. So so you'll be happy on one level, but then when it comes to the laws of your favorite meat that you're counting on a barbecue for yontif, and now you find out, oops, one vertebrae is missing. So Beishama would have said, no, two vertebrae, you're fine with one vertebrae. You're still intact. You're still good to go. But Beis Hillel is going to say, nope, sorry, there goes your meat, and you got a treif on your hands. That's going to be bad news, and that'll be a chumrah in the other direction. So the very same halacha on one hand it will be a kula, on the other hand will be a chumrah. So here, when it's so sur each other, you can't grab the chumras on both ends because that would be contradictory. That's where you should not grab two chumras. But if they don't contradict, like in our case by the ches shaped mavui in our door, that there is no inherent contradiction between the chumrah of the doors versus the chumrah of the mavim of foolish. Those are two separate halachas, rendered by two different people, and that's not the same thing as this. And this is where you would not grab both chumras. Okay, so that was the spine, right? So 1 second. Beisil says one vertebrae will be enough to make it no longer a valid entity of a spine, and therefore not rendered tamei. When it comes to the skull, Beishamai will say the amount that a certain type of instrument that makes holes in different boards or whatever different instrument you use for construction, that makdeach, which has a set amount, is the amount that will render it a non-valid skull. Beisil Oimrim, and also that would be a larger amount, which you would need to get to the level of treifa. Beisil Oimrim kadei shinotal min achayv yamus. No, you don't have to go that far. As much as if you would pull this amount out from the skull, and it would die, then that's a shear, and that's less of a shear. He again on the skull, just like by the spine, goes to a lesser amount. And the reason why these two things, now we get to the other halacha. Okay, so the same thing would be by treifa. So the very leniency that Beis Hillel had to tell you that the room is tahar because you're missing one vertebrae, and one vertebrae is enough to render everything clean in the room, so you don't have to go and not worry about all your stuff becoming tamei, will also be enough to render it a treifa, which on the other hand will be a chumrah. So one kula leads to a chumrah. So that's where you can't grab both things, machmar on both ends, because it's inherently contradictory. But if in a situation where there's not a stira, avdina, then you would go ahead and do it, and therefore this is another answer to how we're not in such a bad shape when our doy decided to go with both chumras. That was perfectly fine. Let's catch up on the Rashis here. Okay, Ashedra Al-Gagolas, that's what we're up to, right? Smack in the middle of Rashi's there in the narrow lines. Okay, Gabi Tumas, Ohel B'meis, by the laws of Tumas, Ohel of B'meis. Tanan, Kama Chisaran B'Shedra V'Teitzim V'Teres Shedra, how much needs to be lacking from that spine in order for the spinal cord, to be, in order for it to be go out of the realm of a spine.
I'm sorry, did we do the previous Rashi?
Maybe we did not. You're right. Okay, go on Shedra V'Gagolas. Okay, back it up one Rashi. Thank you for that. Okay, so again, the case would be, so Rashi has two Rashis on Shedra V'Gagolas. Shomei. So we're on the first one. You have the spine and a skull of a mace. Iflugubei, where there's a machlokes about these two parts of the human. The Lebei Shammai Levi Chisaron El Lebei Chuyas. Okay, where according to Beis Shammai, it'll not be considered lacking unless there are two vertebrae missing. Vim Chasr Chuya Achas, and if only one is missing, Adayin Tumas Boel, it still will be Tamei in the Ohel, and that's a chumrah that Beis Shammai takes, that he says everything in the Ohel will be Tamei, even though it's missing one vertebrae. The Gabi Treifa Nami, Levi Chisaron, and by treifa too, it would not be considered lacking. It would still be considered a viable animal, ukshera, and it would be considered kosher. Every time of the Beis Shammai chumra l'gabei meis. Okay, and the reason of Beis Shammai is a chumra when it comes to mace. Well, the Beis Hillel, right? It's a chumra when it comes to mace, but it becomes a kula when it comes to treifa. Okay, well, Beis Hillel, the Amrei Chisaron who have a chumra l'gabei treifa. By Beis Hillel, who says that it is considered lacking, which is a kula when it comes to the laws of being mitame in the ohel. That same perspective will render you a chumrah when it comes to the laws of treifa, because it's the same issue. Again, if you're going to go like treifa base like Beis Hillel, And by Beishamai, by a mace, that's a fool. That's a fool that's what we don't want you to do. That's what the Bryce was referring to by saying when you're machmir, like two different opinions, these are the two types of opinions that you're a fool for, and that it's a bad thing to do. The sasra of the adadi, because the two things are contradicting each other. The very same issue, you're jumping back and forth. When in one case you're saying it is lacking, in one case you're saying it's not lacking, and that is not right. Okay, next Rashi. This was written when it comes to the laws of Oel b'meis. It takes me Torah shedro. How much has to be lacking to take you out of the realm of being a spine? And will then now be treated like any other bone, where the shear of a bone of a corpse is besora, is the size of a barley. Which no longer will be able to metamboa, but will be able to make you tummy if you come in direct contact with it, physical direct contact. It's like the size of this instrument that makes holes in things. And the other shear is the amount of that if you would take it out of if a live person would lose this amount, that they would die, and that's the amount that you no longer considered a skull, a viable skull. Okay, but in a situation where they don't inherently contradict kagain, for example, okay, like our case about the ches shaped mavui, the pligi betray mili, the tayim betray taime. They were arguing on two matters that depend on two different reasonings. Mar machmir b'ha akum, or mar machmir b'ha foolish. Okay, because one is machmir on the the nature of the bending, and one is machmir on that in considering it open. Okay, and those two steers don't inherently contradict each other in the logic that it's dependent upon. It isn't like it's dependent on the very same point, and the question is you can't grab both ends of the stick. This is not doing that in the case of the mavui. Two different issues. One is how you close things up, and the other one is how you view it. Two separate things. Okay, and therefore, avdinun. In that situation, following what Nardoi did and following both chumras is perfectly okay. Fine. So let's proceed. Back to the Gemara. It says, Masar Misharsha, slightly below the middle of the page. Wait, I'm sorry. Back it up one line. He says, Veicha the Sarsha Dadi law of Dinan. Is that really true? He said, when the two chumras contradict each other, then you can't be machmir in both situations. Why not? Again, I mean, when you're being machmir, you're not potentially losing anything. It's just the argument is that there's an inherent contradiction in what you're doing, but it isn't like you're going to be, you're going to break a halach or anything. Fakir, you're always going to be machmir and go to an extreme. But and we're saying, but you shouldn't do that when they contradict the logic. I'm about to show you that even when they contradict the logic, you have no problem being machmir like both ends of the spectrum. What's wrong? I'll prove to you it happened. He says, really, Moser Mishasha, however, showed from this brisa. Yeah, it looks like it's a brisa. Ma'aser Rabbi Akiva. There's a story about Rabbi Akiva. Shlikat esrik be'echad b'shvat. So it was Rosh Chodesh Shvat, and he picked off an esrik from a tree. Now this was at the end of year 2, going into year 3. Now, if we remember our stuff from Zroim, which we've covered over the years, we never did Zroim together, but we certainly have covered a lot of these laws of Ma'aser. We know that year 2, okay, is a year of Ma'aser Sheni. Year 3 is a year of Ma'aser Ani. This is separate from the typical Ma'aser you give to the Levi. There's an additional Ma'aser, Mena Ma'aser, that you have to either take to Yerushalayim in years 1, 2, 4, and 5, or in years 3 and 6, you give an additional 10th to the Ani. It's called Ma'aser Ani. Well, you took it. You cut the esrog on Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Okay, so we know Rosh Chodesh Shvat might be the year you transition, might be the time you transition from one year to the next. But we know for us, is it Aleph B'Shvat that's the big yontif? Right? When do we have the big yontif when everybody eats the buksa? That's the buksa which no one can eat because it smashes your teeth. That's Tu B'Shvat, right? We celebrate Tu B'Shvat. So the question is, which one is it? Do we follow the new year of Beis Hillel or follow the new year of Beis Shammai? Okay, so Meiser B'Rekiva, Shliket Esrig B'Echad B'Shvat, he cut off an Esrig on the first of Shvat, V'noig Boy Beisi Surid. Okay, and he decided to go on both ends of the spectrum. Why? Okay, he Echad K'divrei Beishamai, V'Echad K'divrei Zil. He gave Meiser from Meiser Sheni, he treated his Meiser Sheni to fulfill Beishamai. He also gave it a Meiser Ani status to fulfill Beis Hillel. What are you doing at Manushach? It's either one or the other. They're not both right. Only one of them is right. So what are you doing? So doesn't this prove that even when there's a inherent contradiction, what you're doing, because here who's machmir like both seems to indicate that even when they contradict, as long as you're being machmir, as long as you're being safe, nothing wrong with it. The Gemara says no, this is not a proof. For Rabbi Kiva, Gamre istopically, he himself was not sure about his teaching, about his learning, about what he received from his rebbeim. He was a Beis Hillel man all the way. He was not trying to be machmir like Beis Shammai. That was not his thing. He just did not remember which one Beis Hillel held. Was Beis Hillel the Echad B'Shvat man, or was he the Tu B'Shvat man? The other Hachal Chumra V'Achal Chumra, and therefore he decided to do both because he wasn't sure which one to do. So he couldn't leave anyone behind because he wasn't sure what his Rebbe held. So this is a very different case and has no bearing on this issue of being machmir on trying to burn the candle on both ends. Okay, let's see Rashi. Shaliket esrig kola ilon kori esrig. The entire tree is called an esrig. Okay. I'm not sure why we need that. I guess I'm not sure what he was harvesting a tree as opposed to just one esrig. Okay, I'm not sure what the big difference it would have been if it just would have been the esrig. But Shnei Yisurin, maybe it wouldn't have been enough. I don't know. I'm not sure. Shnei Yisurin. So what did?
So you needed to have more than one esrog to do the meisers.
You can't give a meiser. I mean, you're lacking the share to give. You have to have 10 to. I mean, you could really give a 10th, but
so you take off a piece of the esrog.
Right, yeah, that's what we used to do.
Okay.
For the, but okay, I'm not sure. It could be right. Okay, Shnei Surin, Shnei Yotzes, Ushlish Nechneses. The second year is going out, and the third year is coming in. Okay, Havi Shana Shnei Lishmita Meiser Rishon V'Sheni. Right, the second year would be the year where you give Meiser Rishon and the Meiser Sheni. You have to take that Meiser Sheni up to Yerushalayim. Shlish is Meiser Rishon and Meiser Ani. The third year would demand that you don't take it up to Yerushalayim, but you give it to the Ani. So in order to cover both ends of the possibilities, he did both. Why did he do both? Echad K'divrei Beis Shammai. D'Amrinon B'Echad B'Shvat Rosh Hashanah Ilon Kfar Nechneses L'Shishis, because he holds the first day of Shvat is the day that you enter into the new year, the transitional year of year 2 to year 3. This is right, the Rosh Hashanah L'Ilanos. So it's Rosh Hashanah. So you gotta transition now. It's the third year for Meiser Ani. B'Echad K'divrei Beis Hillel D'Amrinon Ad Chamisha Asaboy. Right? He says, no. Tu B'Shvat is a big day. He says, right? Until the 15th is not Rosh Hashanah, it's still the second year. In which case, Meiser Sheni is in order. So which one is it? He did both. So doesn't this prove that he tried to grab both ends of the stick here? And the answer is no. He personally wasn't sure. Gamre is topically Beis Hillel. He was a complete Beis Hillel man. We know Rabbi Kiva was a Talmud of Hillel, and he followed Hillel all the way down the line. Okay, and therefore it's not a proof to anything, and we are ready to start the two dots. Okay, let's back to Gemara. So that was a nice little vacation from Mavi, very short-lived, but now we're back to the grind of dealing with Mavuis and Chatzeros and everything else that entails. Okay, so back to the two dots. Yosef Rav Yosef Kamed Rav Huna. Rav Yosef was sitting in front of Rav Huna. Rav Yosef Kamar, and he was sitting and saying. Okay, so Rav Yosef is the one doing the talking now, and he says, Rav Yudah Marav. Rav Yudah says the name of Rav, and here he was very clear that he said it in the name of Rav, because we know that Rav Yehuda actually had two Rebbeim. He had Rav and he had Shmuel. Okay, so both were. If you go through Shas, you see that Rav Yehuda is quoting Rav very often and quoting Shmuel also very often. So he had two Rebbeim. So here he's quoting Rav, and then he says like this: Machlokis pesrach mikan vesrach mikan uplach mikan uplach mikan. When do we have machlokis between? Remember that machlokis is who we paskin like? Do we paskin like the Tanna Kama, who says by movi mafulish, all you need is a tzuras pesach on one side and a lechi or a kor on the other side. That was the Tanna Kama. And Rav paskin like the Tanna Kama. Shmuel followed Chananya. What was Chananya? Chananya said, no, he follows Chananya, who in his estimation, Hillel, he brought in Hillel and Shammai. Hillel says you need a door on one side and a lechi and a kor on the other side. So it says now, Rav Huna, in the name of Rav Yosef, quoting Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, that whole machlokus is when it opens to a sratya on one, a thoroughfare on one side and a thoroughfare on the other side. Or a public gathering place on one side and a public gathering place on the other side. Namely, what that means is Rishus Rab on both ends. When do you have a machlokes as to how you close up a movim of foolish? That machlokes only applies when the movim of foolish is open on both sides to that which is deemed to be a halachic Rishus Rab, which we know means at least 16 amos wide, and according to many opinions, additional 600,000 people that have to be there. So that's when you have this machlokas. Avo. But if it's not quite that case, Sracha Mikan, it opens up to Wilshire on one side, Ubika Mikan, but there's a nice field, okay, for fields, I guess we got to move to the valley. So, right, so it's open to Ventura on one side, but then the hills are all a bunch of open fields where the cows are still grazing there. That's meaning that it's not open on both sides to Rosh Hashanah. Oh, Bika Mikan or Bika Mikan. Or even better, you have the Movim Mefulish open to two fields, two non-Rosh Hashanah areas. A field like a camp is a Carmelis, right? We know already that if it doesn't meet the threshold of 16 amma wide streets, or with the possibility of the 600,000 necessary as well, then what is it? It's a Carmel. It could be an open area, but if it's not a place where people are traversing, then that's not called the Rosh Hashanah. That's called a Carmelis. So if you have that situation where it's either open from both sides to a Carmelis or even one side to a Carmelis, then what do you do in that situation? Everyone's going to agree, okay, Obika Mikan, Oisin Sursa Pesach Mikan. All you got to do, then everyone agrees to the Tanna Kama's positioning that you make it Sursa Pesach on one side, Lechi V'Kura Mikan, and Lechi Kor on the other side. So that's halacha number one that he said in the name of Rav. That was just a little bit of a pickbook here. So just we're going to deal with the language. It's a funny thing to say. Either it's open from a bika on one side or shus ram on the other side, or it's open from two bikas. So it's a kavachaymer. Hashas sracha mikan a bika mikan oisel tzurza pesach mikan v'lechi v'kar mikan. If you're about to tell me that if you open on one side to a shus ram and one side to a bika, all you need to rectify that situation to carry in the mavui is a tzurza pesach and a lechi or a korah, which is like much less of a tirch. You don't need a door. All you need is a Torah of Pesach. Bika mikami boy. Well, of course, that's all you're going to need when you have a bik on both sides. Why would you have to tell me the next level down if you already told me a level up when you even have a public thoroughfare on one side of the situation of the Mavi, that it's good enough with a Torah of Pesach and a lechi for sure. When you have both sides open to a non-Rosh Hashanah situation, of course it's going to be true. So why would you add that line? This is more like just a technical question on the statement he made in the name of Rav, to which we responded, Hachi Kamar. Take it easy. This is what he meant. Maybe didn't say it exactly the way he should have, but what he meant to say is as follows. Sracha mikan, ubika mikan. When you have a mavi that's open to a public street on one side, and a bika on the other side, nasa bika mikan, it becomes like a bika on both sides. It's so different than a bika on both sides. It's not another halacha. It just, if I care, it's defining for you what the status of the Rosh Hashanah opening is, that it doesn't change it because it's not open to Rosh Hashanah on both ends. Okay, fine. So that's what we meant. If you have a Wilshire on one side, then it's like, and a field on the other, then it's like you have two fields and it's not a problem. Okay, nasa kaman, nasa bika mikan or bika mikan. Okay, fine. So that's one halacha. Okay, then he said another halacha. U'misayim ba b'shmei derav. Okay, and I'm sorry, Mishmei Rav Yehuda. And then when Rav Yosef was talking, right, and he said this halacha name of Rav Yehuda Marav. And then he said the next halacha, but for some reason he left out Rav's name. This one was his only name of Rav Yehuda. Okay, as he continued talking, and who was there? Rav Yosef was sitting there, right? Rav Yosef was sitting, he was sitting when talking. Rav Huna is the one listening. Okay, U'misayim ba Mishmei Rav Yehuda. And then he ended just in the name of Rav Yehuda. Halacha number 2 is that what? Okay, and this is if you have an art scroll, you can refer to it. Okay, do not refer to the Rashi because they said a Rashi here is not the correct diagram. Okay, but if you have a mavui that ends to a rechava, okay, ein tzarich klum. So you have a mavui that it looks like a Mavi Mefulish, except that on the other end, one end of course opens to Rishus Rabim, but the other end doesn't open to a Rishus Rabim, it opens to a back empty lot. That's where, remember, we had the word Rechava before that. So behind the houses, you have a backyard behind your house. This was sort of an unused back lot, which really was maybe owned by one guy, but definitely wasn't used to carry stuff in. It wasn't, people were not living there, and from that back lot, then it opens to Rishus Rabim. So if you're standing in the Mavi, if you're looking, north as opposed to south, which is your Rishus Rabim, you're looking north. You see this back lot, and the back lot also has an opening, which allows you to see right into Olympic. You got Wilshire on one side, you got Olympic on the other side. So, but the point is, the Rechava really has enough walls to surround you. Even though it has a big opening, we already learned any opening less than 10 amas is not called an opening. That's going to be a breach that would require you to make a fence, because you've got enough fencing around you, even though the walls are open there and you can see through, but you're surrounded enough to have you covered. Just like even on the where the Rechava hits the Mavui, right, to the top of the T, so to speak. Also, the Mavi is wide open. The Mavi has no walls on its two sides, but if the minute you hit the Rechava, you make a right turn, there are walls. It's the shape of a T. So you do have right walls surrounding the Rechava and enclosing it enough that the two breaches, one to the far level that opens to Olympic, and the one that opens to the Mavi, are less than 10 amas, so 10 amas or less, and they are not going to render you considered open. So carrying within the Rechava should not be a problem. Carrying in the Mavi could very well be a problem. So look what he says. So one more time. U'misayim ba Mishmei Rav Yehuda im haya Mavi kol Rechava, if a Mavi ends into a back lot, ein tzarich klum. You don't need anything. You're fine in the Mavi as is. Your lechi on the Wilshire end will cover you, and you you're ending the top of your T is a Rechava, which is enclosed, and but I can see Olympic is not a big problem. No, the fact that I can see Olympic is not a problem.
Rabbi, the back lot, is there any minimum or maximum dimensions from?
Yeah, the opening cannot be more than 10 amas.
But the lot itself, the width of the
lot.
No.
Once it's enclosed, it's got the walls around that T, so that it doesn't matter. Okay. But again, the point is, right, it's only right, and even the opening to Olympic has to be less than 10 or less. So can't be more than 10.
The opening itself, but the size of the lot itself.
Correct. Okay. Correct. That would not bother us.
So
correct.
The opening from the back lot to Rishus Rabin is less than
10. Yes. Well, let's see. Well, because if it's more than 10, then you're going to have to maybe fix up the Rechava. Yeah, let's see about that.
That's got to be less than 10.
For sure, going into the Mavi has to be less than 10. Going into Rishus Rabbi, I think also, let's see Rashi. Rashi might help us on that issue.
Because these ones into the Mavi seem smaller.
Right. Let's see. I mean, he makes it bigger. He makes it like a T. And let's see. Because in the Rechava, if you have a breach today, let's see Rashi.
The version is 3D. Ours is 2D. I'm serious.
We have
you have a different version?
Yeah, I guess when they upgraded.
Do you have it?
You have the upgraded one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one there.
Oh,
See,
wow.
that's why I was asking, I didn't really know.
I mean, it's the same picture, but it's just a little enhanced.
Well, but what's that wall there?
No, it's the gray part is just the
It's a floor. Just
It's
okay.
a
It's
floor.
very
Yeah,
misleading.
Back lot is the
It's a
floor.
back, yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
that's-
See here, yeah.
that's the floor. Yeah.
Here it has the same size. The updated version has the back area the same. The back breach is just as wide as the Mavli breach. I don't know why, if he did it specifically or.
It's the same here. It's just,
This one sort of does too. This one is the same.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I thought you were saying it's bigger.
No, I'm just saying it's obviously larger than the ones coming in from the Rosh Hashanah, I guess. You know.
Well, okay, because here it looks exactly the same.
this is the ones from coming up with Rosh Hashanah, but it's still under 10. That's the, I think
Yeah,
that's the point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but here I think if you made a straight line, it'll go exactly.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
mine's different.
so here it's exactly the same.
In ours is
Right. No,
different.
here too. I'm just saying the
It's
ones
the
here
same
from the
like this
side.
one.
I'm
This
saying
Yeah.
those ones
Oh,
from the
okay.
side
Yeah.
are obviously much
Those side
smaller.
things don't matter.
So I
Yeah.
didn't know if they were.
Yeah. They also, if it's less than
those ones were
10.
clearly under 10, and up here I was like, is that?
Yeah, you know, those side things, we're not even focusing
Right.
on those side things, right? But that, yeah, that for sure also needs to be
Back lot-
under 10.
back lot wider than the Mabui. Is
It's wider, but the breach is not wider. That's all. The breach is under 10. Okay, let's take a look at Rashi. So right now we learned two halachas. Let's just remember, we just learned two halachas. One in the name of Rav, one in the name of Rav Yehuda, without another name. Rav Yosef quoted Rav Yehuda, and he didn't quote Rav Yehuda, the name of who. Let's take a look. So Srach yeah, machlokas. I'm sorry, machlokas. Machlokas, the mavos hamufalosh, the Tanakama of Chananya. That machlokas that we learned a blot ago, that who we paskin like between Hananya and the Tanakama, which is machlokas Rav and Shmuel, is only when it opens up to a Srachu Plachi, Shtein Rosh Hashanah. They're both considered Rosh Hashanah. Knamrina, B'tzias Shabbos. Like one would be like Wilshire Boulevard, would be more like a Sracha, I think, and a Placha would be more like Tiananmen Square. Okay, where the guy stands in front of the trunk. I mean the tank. Okay, who can forget that? So right, it's a big, large gathering place. Okay, Shabbos, Rashi tells us Srach is a place where people walk. Placha rochev l'shvakim. A placha is a big place for the markets. People are hanging their wares. It's a big, central gathering place. I'm not sure what a flea market in Pasadena qualify as a Rosh Hashanah. Not sure, interesting. I doubt it, but okay, we'll see. In a case where both ends of the Mavi open up to a Rosh Hashanah, who the that's where Chananya chimes in and says you need a door to close it up. And according to Beis Shammai, you need two doors. According to Beis Hillel, you only need one door, but you need a door. It's not enough to just make it Tzuras Pesach, which is a flimsy little, just like an opening that looks like a doorway but doesn't have a door to it. Okay, Bika. Bika is a Carmelis. Bika is really, it's a field, but it also really is a generic term for anything that's a Carmelis. For anything that's not a Rosh Hashanah, that's not a Makom Patur, which is pretty much a lot of things, that's called a Bika. Visur Darbanan, and carrying there is only Nisa Darbanan, right? So if you're in a camp, okay, you're in a campsite or you're in a forest, your inability to carry in a forest is really a rabbinic prohibition, right? Because not a Rosh Hashanah. This is what is the Torah's prohibition. You can't carry from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, and you can't carry 4 amos in a Rosh Hashanah. But if you're not a Rosh Hashanah, where's the prohibition? Torah says the rabbis made the prohibition to protect the laws of Shabbos. Okay, Umusayim.
And in addition to Makom Patur, we also have a Rosh Hashanah, so right. So
Well,
there's a Carmelis, Rosh Hashanah.
4, correct.
Okay.
Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah are the two Deraisidic ones, and the two rabbinic ones, or
Okay, yeah.
are Makom Patur and Carmelis. Okay, so that's halach number 1. When did Chananya argue with the Tanakama? Is when they're both open to Rosh Hashanah. However, now come the next halachah. Sayim bar Rav Yosef Mishpei Rav Yehuda stama. Then he ended with a stam halach of lo pirish Rav Yehuda Rav Yosef mimi kibel. He didn't say who did I accept it from. Hi sium I see him. This second halacha, this ending statement, he wasn't clear who did he receive it from. What's halacha? That if this mavi ended hamaful shusram kol rechava, the mavi that ended on one end to Wilshire Boulevard ended on the other end into a back lot. Derech rechava haya mavi mafulish. Derech harechava haya. Amavim foolish, okay, and I guess if you walk through the rechava, the alleyway then becomes open on the other end, like your diagram showed you. With that wall at the very top of the T was now open to a rishus harabim. Okay, rechava hekev chotzer shachrei batim. Right, a rechava is the surrounding of a yard, okay, behind homes, and generally when you have the word rechava, it's always surrounded by four walls, as your diagram is surrounded by four walls. It's two breached walls, but big deal. As long as a breach is 10 amos or less, it's not called not having a wall. It has a wall, it's open. Okay, like a lot of times you can carry in these, the parking lots of hotels or motels, if there are walls all around, but then there's a big opening for the cars to come through, well, you have to measure that opening. If the opening is narrow enough that it's less than 10 amas, then it's not going to create a breach that's going to be a problem for you. It's still going to be considered, together in the Motel 6. You consider it in one area, and, you can relax, okay, and carry in that parking lot. Ain't tzar klum. So if you're in the rechava, so the question is, if you want to carry the mavi, do you need any rectification on the top end? You got a lechi or a kor on the bottom end, open to Wilshire. You need another one on opening, by the rechava, open to Olympic. And the answer is no. Ain't tzar klum. L'taken asab psicha shel tzar rechava. Okay, you don't have to do anything and rectify the part that's open to the rechava. All you need is a one that's open to Wilshire, either a pole or a beam. Kataris mavi, sasam, like any other closed mavi. Nami rechava connected pirtzas mavi because okay, and of course the case that we're talking about, with this rechav is open on the other side, okay, by that back wall, to rishus harabim. That's where there's a chiddush. And even though you can mamish see through to Olympic on that end, also Shminan is coming to teach me that it still does not need any rectification. You are completely good to go with that lachi or korah on the Wilshire end. It's going back on that concept that we said in Flushin before. I think we're going to have to finish this Rashi tomorrow. Okay.